Let's get R&B squad. This is Heart of Ruth. I trust that this message makes you guys in good spirits. If you are new here, welcome. We're happy to have you. And Jesus is, of course, always happier. So, Merry Christmas, you guys. If you guys don't hear from me after today, before Christmas Day, I'm just extending Christmas greetings to each and every one of you. I pray that you all have a blessed Christmas. I pray that the next few days are just amazing for all of you under the sound of my voice, okay? And for those of you that aren't surrounded by loved ones, those of you who may have family members that you would prefer not to be around during the holidays, just know that this is your family, that you have a family here, okay? You have a loving family here that's praying for you, a loving family here that is thinking about you. Just remember that so that you don't feel as if you're alone. So, the word I have today comes from a dream that I had, and I'm just going to get into the dream and then I'm going to get into the word. All right. And how you will know that this is for you is because you may have had a similar experience to what I'm about to describe. And it may have happened to you fairly recently. So you may be on the verge of a breakthrough if this is for you. And you may be feeling like you've been under attack. But every time you come under attack, God delivers you out of it very quickly. And not only does God deliver you out of it very quickly, but in most instances, you're beginning to realize that the attacks are just an attack on your mind. So the enemy makes things look a certain way when it's not. So he's creating all of these smoke screens to make things look a certain way, make things look bad. But then in like 24 hours, in a few days, you realize it wasn't what it looked like originally. So the enemy is using a lot of smoke screens. And I should just put that out there because he cannot stop what God is doing at this time, because he cannot stop the blessings that God has lined up for his people, the end of year blessings that God has lined up for his people. He's going to try to create smoke screens to make things look bad. All right. So I had this dream. In the dream, I saw two women. The two women, they went into this house together. Now, the house, it was situated at the back of where they were. So I don't know, the first house that they were in, it belonged to one of them. Okay, so one of them lived in the first house. And then they left the first house and they went to the house that was situated right next door at the back of the house that they were in. And I took some notes, so let me go ahead and describe what they saw when they got into the house, okay? The house was very neat and very clean. It struck me how tidy the house was, and the woman commented on how tidy the house was. Now, it was a small house. It was not very big, but it was very tidy. Everything was just perfectly in place. The windows were open, and it was nighttime. I could see that it was dark out through the open windows, and I felt the coolness from the night air coming in. It was rather cold, okay? And as the woman looked around, what I noticed is that they started to feel a little bit off. And I felt what they were feeling as well. I felt off in that place, that there was something odd about it. So getting back into my notes here, there was an odd feeling about the house. The owner or the person who lived there wasn't at home, but his presence could be felt. And despite the tidiness and the orderly atmosphere of the home, there was a general coldness about it. It almost felt like a serial killer lived there. There was just this sense of a pervading coldness. On the wall on opposite sides were two odd portraits. One of them was of sheep, and on the opposite side of the wall, there was a portrait of a goat, except that the sheep, they were just sheep. And the goat looked like a human with the head of a goat. So the goat was standing upright on its hind legs like a human, and its body looked structured like a human, but it had the head of a goat. Emphasis was put on the fact that there was a space between the portrait of the sheep and the portrait of the goat. There was a considerable space between both portraits. They were not on the same wall. As the two women left the house, one of them said, "I feel like the devil lives there." And that struck me. I couldn't help but feel the same way. Like I shared her sentiment. I felt like there was a very evil presence. And it was, guys, it's really hard to explain what this felt like. I did not feel scared. I could sense that these women did not feel scared either. They weren't afraid. But the house itself, it would make anyone uncomfortable to be there. There was just this coldness about it. Okay? This overwhelming sense of coldness. Like you could tell there was something completely off about the person who lived there. So for whoever this is for, this message actually has two different interpretations, okay? First of all, for someone, there is somebody that you know. It could be an actual neighbor. It might just be someone close to you, figuratively speaking, like a family member, a friend, someone that you hang out with, okay? Or like I said before, it could be an actual neighbor. This person has an open window. Emphasis was put on the fact that the windows were open, and that was contributing to the cold air in the house. Okay? Someone has an open window, and what did it look like outside? It was dark out. Someone has an open window to darkness. Someone has an open window to the enemy, because the same cold presence that was in the house was coming through that open window as well. Someone has a door open, a window open to the enemy, and that person is somebody that is in close proximity to you. Whether it's an actual neighbor or a friend or a family member, I don't know. But somebody close to you has an open window. And in order for you to not be exposed to that, you need to remove yourself from this person because they have the window open, okay? So that's one thing. The other thing is that the enemy is trying to attack God's people. But notice that the man, the half human, half goat, which is giving straight up Baphomet, that's what it's giving. Okay, that was the devil. And notice as the woman, as they were coming out of the house, one of them said, "I feel like the devil lives there." And she put exactly what I felt into words, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, why does it feel like there's this really cold, evil presence in here that I can't put my finger on? And as soon as she said it feels like the devil lives there, that summed up exactly what I was thinking and feeling. Like it just felt like it was the enemy. And it wasn't what you would expect. Okay? And that's something that I want to talk to you guys about, that I feel like I need to talk to you guys about in this video. Don't expect the devil to come the way you expect him to come. Do you understand? Don't expect him to show up the way you think he's going to show up. You might think that when the enemy is present that you're going to feel this fear, or that you're going to feel this panic, or that there's going to be this strong sense of evil. No, sir, no, ma'am. That was not how this enemy showed up. Not in this dream. For all intents and purposes, the house seemed like a normal house. It even seemed like an orderly house. It seemed like a tidy house. It seemed like the kind of house that was livable. Okay? It seemed like somebody disciplined lived there, because everything was in perfect order, except that one thing that was off, that coldness, and that portrait on the wall of that goat. Okay? So the enemy, it's some people around you that may appear like one thing, but they're actually into some stuff that you don't know about. They're into some really dark stuff. They may look normal on the surface. They may even look like they have everything together on the surface. Just like that house was, everything was in order in that house. But you can still sense that it's something off about them that you can't put your finger on. And it's because the enemy dwells there. They have made their bodies a temple for the enemy. Do you understand? They have an open window. So when God gets to warning you about people, even if you don't see anything in the natural that actually confirms what you've been sensing and what the Lord has been telling you, you don't need to wait until you have confirmation in the natural that this person is not someone that needs to be in your life. You just need to cut this person off. Because what would have happened if those women didn't leave that house? If they had just stayed there and waited to see whether or not the devil actually lived there? No, they left. The minute they started to feel uncomfortable in there and they realized it was something off about the house, no matter how neat and well put together it was, they left. They were like, nah, we're getting up out of here. And I was right on their heels because I wasn't staying in there either. That's what we need to start doing. We need to start getting to running when the Lord tells us to run from a person, from a place, from a situation, instead of waiting to see in the natural what he has already told us in the spirit. Okay? Now, for others of you, as I said before, the enemy is trying to attack God's people, but there was a lot of emphasis. The Lord particularly drew my attention to the fact that there was a wall between the sheep, God's people, and the man with the head of a goat. He was on the opposite wall. The portrait was on the opposite wall. The space between was too big for them to even come into contact with each other. Those two portraits could not be on the same wall, okay? The Lord is placing a protective wall between his people and the enemy. So the enemy might be coming for you, and you can see that he's coming for you. And you may have even gone before God and told God that you're concerned, that you're worried because the enemy is coming for you. And you can feel him coming. Even though it hasn't manifested yet, you can feel his presence. Okay? I had a sister in Christ tell me the other day that the devil straight up came to visit her. Straight up came to visit her. Do you hear what I'm saying to you guys? And she felt that she felt his presence, that he was there. Some of you are experiencing the same thing right now because you're on the verge of a breakthrough. God is getting ready to do something for you. So you can actually feel the enemy trying to breathe down your neck. He's hovering right now. He's hovering, and he's doing it in a threatening way. Like, okay, so if you make any sudden movements, I'm about to do something that you're not going to expect me to do. But God's got something for him. God's got something for him. God said to tell you that he has placed a protective wall between you, a protective distance between you and the enemy. So the enemy can create how many smoke screens he wants. He can be as threatening as he likes, but he can't touch you. Not in this season. Not in this season. So be mindful over the next few days. If you see something and it looks like one thing, take a closer look. Before you start panicking, take a closer look. The enemy is creating smoke screens to make situations look bad, to make them look like something other than what they actually are, to make it look like the thing that God told you is a blessing is actually a curse. Take a closer look, all right? I love you guys. I will be back with another word as soon as the Lord releases me. Take care.